Hey everybody, so Corey had approached me about doing what he called an ABA, which is, you know, an AMA, but it's my name, so it's an ABA, which I'm happy to do. So we took some questions on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and unfortunately we can't hit all these questions. We actually tried, and this video was twice as long as it needed to be. But we're going to answer a few of them here. If your question doesn't get answered, that's okay. We'll do some more of this stuff in the future. And you can always just, you know, ask me individually, you know, send me a DM on, golly, I probably shouldn't say that, but, go ahead, DM me. Sure, let's see what happens. Some of you already do, and it's always good to hear from you. It is sometimes good to hear from you. All right, so just jump right into this. Who has the most power at certifiable? That would be Beast. Who thinks they have the most power at certifiable? Beast. And who uses the most power at certifiable? You guessed it, also Beast. Who is the better artist, Anthony or Jesse? That one's probably the easiest question here, is clearly. All right, we've got a question here from Timothy Stephen Mostalski. Have you written something that you know cannot be used, but to make them read it and go, oh my God, what did I just read? This is actually one of my favorite questions, and it's one of the hardest to answer because I feel like the answer is probably yes, but I'm really fortunate in that a lot of, you know, crap that I think we're not going to be able to use anywhere actually gets used somewhere. For instance, there's a whole list of events at the end of the player's manual in D6 that was just I had a very specific theme I wanted to go with, and there's some just crazy stupid stuff in there, but it all got used. So it's really hard to write something idiotic enough that these people want to take. What is the craziest thing you have made the interns do, and why do they keep coming back? First of all, we don't make them do anything. We simply strongly suggest tasks and pair those with career-altering consequences. But I guess if you had to be specific, Anna Kate is just literally making her hang out with Key. I mean, or it's just part of her job. They have to work together. For Key, just making them do anything productive, like literally anything at all. As to why they keep coming back, well, in the first place, I mean, they're here because one, they want to be here, and two, we want our interns to be here. We only work with people, for instance, like Anna Kate. I think she might get some school credit for this, but she's here because she genuinely wants to be here. She's already contributed, you know, greatly towards. You know, there's some game ideas she's worked on. She just does random stuff around the office building. She cleaned up Beast's throne, which is ridiculous. Like after a day, it's just covered in his hair, and it had not been cleaned in a while. And she does things around the office. With Key, it's a little different. We almost always hire people that we like. In this case, somebody had to pull some strings. He's got a little bit of a single white female thing happening with somebody who works here.
Hey, Brent! Hey, Brent!
I'm in the middle of something, Key! But yeah, it's not the single white female intern, strangely enough. It's somebody else who works here. We're not going to get into it. We don't want to I don't want to call any more attention to it. Angela Vivine asks, since Jesse and Anthony have an art book, when will we see a certifiable novel? D6 rulebook doesn't count. That's really sad because between that and the rest of the player's manual, it is novel length. You know, I love the idea of that, but it's not something that's on the horizon right now based on our current plans, our current pipeline. But who knows? I'm not going to say never. Oh, this is a good one and kind of harkens back to what Angela was asking. Brittany Riles asks, any chance of us seeing a collection of certifiably short stories? Now you're getting a little bit warmer here. There's so many properties we have, or which we may or may not use. I'm not saying, hey, over here. I'm not saying we would use one of those existing properties, but if we should, there's so much fertile ground for all the things that have been previously done at certifiable. I'm just saying I have a lot of ideas, and you never know what's gonna come out of them. Got another question here from Twitter, Tim the Tech, I believe also Timothy Stephen Mostalski. As a wordsmith, do you have a story tucked in the back of your mind that you've been obsessed with and really want to turn into a board game? I do have lots of stories stuck in the back of my mind, lots of which I'm obsessed with, but really most of the game ideas I've had are not story-based. A quick story for you. Last week, I just needed a break from what I was doing, so I came in here and just to kind of mess with the guys, I wrote a list on this dry erase board here of game ideas. I tried to come up with the most idiotic game ideas I could think of and put them on our upcoming Kickstarter list. Now, as you can tell, these are blurred out because there's some actual real stuff at the top of the list, which is why I put my ridiculous fake crap right under it. The problem is, like, I actually ended up really liking a couple of these to the point where I'm like, okay, when I get some time, eventually one day, I want to develop some of these. But instead of telling you what they're about, I'm just going to read you the titles. Noggin Boots, Budhound Gang, my favorite name out of all these, Bedpans and Boomsticks, and last but not least, my favorite game idea, Prairie Doggin. Got a question here from Brett Kenyon. For those of you who don't know Brett, he was one of the writers on a lot of the original Barona stuff. I believe he wrote all or most of the Kabloo Tales. He contributed heavily to it, and also some other stuff that I don't know many of y'all have heard about. Big contributor on Barona, and also just personally a good friend to me and other people in the company and the company in general. Brett's question, I really like this one. Who would win in a fight? Jesse LeBay, Jesse Eisenberg, Uncle Jesse, or Cher? Okay, let's just break this down real quick. Jesse LeBay, clearly a lot of extra energy to burn. He'd do fine with the cardio aspect. Took some martial arts lessons when he was younger, so who knows? Maybe he's a decent fighter. Jesse Eisenberg has that kind of, nerdy look. But then again, speaking of cardio, he was the guy in Zombieland, right? Yeah, Zombieland. So he's clearly have some martial arts zombie fighting experience. Also in a movie recently called The Art of Self-Defense. I don't know if he had to do any training for that. I haven't seen the film yet. So I don't know. Uncle Jesse, as a character, clearly much older, but in his younger days was a moonshiner. So he got in some fisticuffs. All that's irrelevant because the answer is clearly Cher. You never vote against Cher for anything. Eric Davis asks, what's your favorite card game? Now, some people are going to be real sticklers and say it's not a card game because there are dice involved and there's a lot of dice rolling, but I'm going to go with Stuffed. I've played Endangered Orphans, but it's been a long time, like literally before the game was even launched, so I need to play it again. But yeah, Stuffed is just one of my favorite games, period. It's just a lot of fun. A little bit of strategy, but it's a fun game to play with your friends. And I've played it a lot with various different people, and we always have a blast. Non-certifiable, there are several, but if you want to get really specific, since it is a card game, I'm a poker player. That's by far my favorite game. No Limit Hold'em in particular. I like all the other stuff too, though. As far as non-poker games, Don't Mess with Cthulhu is a freaking blast and gets played more than any other game in this building here, especially First Fridays. Like, that game gets played so much that it makes people hoarse. Tim Tuttle asked, why? It seemed like a good idea at the time. Got one from Paul Sangster from Facebook. Are you or any of the other certifiable crew sneakily represented as characters in any of your games? That's a good question. I don't know about anything prior to D6. I mean, maybe that's, I don't know. But the one I immediately think of is from D6. Jesse drew this character, and I made the comment that it looks like a female version of him, which it's apparently based off somebody else. But I really think she looks just like Jesse. And if you'll see her in the book or in the game. And her character story is in the book, and she's actually named after Jesse. I don't know if he knows that yet. Okay, so that was it for our first, and I guess only ABA, but stay tuned next week for whenever there's a Q&A session with one of the other